Retail OCD, where we discuss the headlines that are shaping how people shop and what it means for the business of retail. I'm Deanne Campbell. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Barney Stacher and Josh Rockoff. Retail is accelerating faster than our ability to process it. Yet we keep showing up, spending, believing. So today we're talking about the function behind that belief, public relations, and how it shapes trust, not just attention. And that's why we're so thrilled to have Shari on our show. Welcome, Shari.
Hi.
Hi. Shari, as the head of PR for Saatva, you have done an absolutely phenomenal job elevating a direct-to-consumer brand in a very challenging, really high consideration vertical. People don't just buy mattresses on a whim. And it seems like marketing gets all the credit and spotlight for brand building. How does PR contribute to making a brand like Saatva successful, giving us a little bit of a high-level entry to the career of PR?
PR sits on the marketing team. So I like to think of myself as a marketer, and marketing is something that I've done in tandem with PR throughout my entire 20-year career. It was at Saatva that the CMO and my direct boss asked me to do just PR. And it was kind of thinking of that marketer mindset of what the customer needs to hear to convert. I apply that now to the media. I think about how I can tell Saatva or talk about our stories, our products, our people in a way that is meaningful to the conversion or the creation of their content that they know influences their audience. So in the same way that we have different customer profiles and personas that marketing will speak to from a consumer lens, I apply that same logic and discipline to PR and the different types of media that I can engage with, whether it's getting our CEO on a podcast or working with a commerce editor for a roundup of the best mattresses for spring, to a story about our newest location and why we've arrived to the city. Those are three different stories. So I really have to think about who that audience that they're serving is, and then craft the narrative and put together the pieces and the most compelling argument for our brand in that case.
Yeah, the storytelling, as you say, that's key, because it's a matter of who the audience is and how they like to hear it, where they like to hear it, and who they like to hear it from.
Exactly.
Whether that be an influencer or an authority, somebody who's scientifically credible. In Josh's case, maybe it's somebody who is an expert in thread and sheet count and comfort levels and all of those things. But telling the story is what PR is, isn't that?
It is. That's why I think I'm on the right team. And that's why I said, by PR, the earned media discipline sits within marketing.
Right. So I'm going to sing Shari's praises for a second, and then I'm going to ask some hard questions, right? So Shari is the smartest PR person I know, hands down, right? And the reality is that if you watch the evolution of Saatva, just evolution of it from, I'm not saying that it wasn't doing well when Shari jumped in, but she's really kind of revolutionized the presence with her colleagues on how Saatva is viewed. You had Casper, you had other style out there in the market, but Saatva's pretty much become a luxury brand by itself. Whereas Casper and others, like Casper you find in Costco, it's more mainstream, more mass market, and obviously suffered from its own financial difficulties. So they presided over something really awesome. And Shari's been sort of, for lack of a better word, the person in the back holding the mannequin in that regard. Holding the strings is probably the best description.
Yeah.
But here's the bigger question, right? So now let's talk about, PR was the first influencer program. Going back hundreds of years, back to Pompeii and back to the Egyptians and all of it. Any which way I can talk about ancient Egypt, I'm going to do. But the comment I have for all of us, right, is, okay, now you have AI. AI, you had in some cases social media where people were just pushing out conspiracy theories and all this other stuff that was just misinformation. They can ruin a brand and obviously do so. I mean, there's stock market manipulation, there's all that, but take it now to AI, where AI is crafting the story. We're writing press releases with AI. We're pushing dialogues with AI. Shari, first and foremost, I will emphatically say PR still has a massive place in the market. And there's no question that PR is a cornerstone strategy of every business I work on. But the bigger question that I ask you is, are you scared of AI? Is AI going to create problems that we just didn't envision?
So I just want to say first and foremost, thank you for the incredible praise to be Saatva's first in-house publicist and the architect of its media strategy. An incredible honor. And I am so humbled that almost 5.5 years later, we are really getting to see the fruits of my labor and the efforts of my agency and the assistant PR manager, Ariel, who I have to shout out, who has quickly become my right hand through all of the stories and campaigns we've had to tell. With regard to AI, PR is now even more valuable than it ever has been. We are the point of truth from which AI generates its content. So AI doesn't exist within a vacuum. It needs to be fed and powered by credible content, and it borrows the authority from some of my best PR wins. So when we get placements in publications such as Wirecutter, New York Times, or Good Housekeeping, or Architectural Digest and Elle Decor, those type of pieces of content are what AI is looking for as it starts to serve up answers and content to the audience through that contextually relevant layer. So if someone's looking for the best mattress for back pain and they see that both Wirecutter and Good Housekeeping and Town and Country and Esquire have all recommended us, or men's health and fitness, those verticals, it pulls from that content. So thankfully, I've had, because of my 5.5 years, a lot of time to work on and craft those narratives and to create or to position Saatva in those contextually relevant stories, which now closely mirrors the way that people are now shopping. They're now using ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and Perplexity in their shopping journey. And because of the dearth of all of that content that I have helped make available from the lens of Saatva with our incredible affiliate team, that's now being served and becomes relevant through AI. In addition to that, there's also the press room, which is Saatva's single source of truth. So I am always, and I sing his praises at any time I can, but when our chief digital and technology officer, Evan Houston, made the decision to build a press room where I could house all of the press releases and other things that perhaps AI or stories within different media publishing websites didn't get to cover, we now have available to AI these multiple sources of truth saying the same thing about our products as well as our people. So I love AI. It's giving my content more relevance, and it allows me to really think about the discipline of the stories I've told, confirm that everything is still moving in the same direction or adapting as our partnerships and our campaigns and our brand grows. And it can, again, deliver the right stories and the right messaging for people who are now in market or are going through other sleep-related issues that maybe our products can speak to.
Yeah, it's a great repository to have, that central library of truth, as it were. And one of the things that I always use as it relates to PR and AI, or I should say AI and generating versus having it as a resource to pull from, is that I say with any junior PR agent, you can trust that you've given them the information that they need to pull from. But, measure twice, cut once. You better edit it before it goes out the door by a human being, somebody like yourself, Shari, who really understands the brand viscerally and the audience that they're speaking to, so that they can tune it the way it needs to be and catch anything.
So are you finding AI helpful in getting product and customer experience to work together and aligning PR intent across different channels? Is that really a major tool for you, or do you have other methods to help create that alignment?
I would say that PR is helping us to align a couple of different things. And storytelling align what you say. Product quality is aligning what you sell. And then retail and customer service, customer experience really align how we deliver. So at Saatva, we see that what we're doing both on a digital perspective, but also in retail, is where all three come together. So it's really the alignment of those three areas of business that I think PR is really helping to craft that narrative around our products, our people, and how we do it.
And I find it really interesting that trust, we're I don't know if we're moving in a post-trust world. Trust is really becoming a hard commodity to earn.
Yeah.
But are you finding that PR is having to become more involved in the operations side of the business? Is that something that you're finding challenging? Is it something that is marrying up with storytelling, the operations side of the business, or are they just two completely separate things still?
I think that they're becoming closer than they have been in quite some time. I totally agree with you that we're in a moment where trust is no longer built through a single channel. Consumers might be more skeptical than ever, whether it's AI, influencer authenticity, product claims. So trust really has to be earned systematically. For me, that means PR isn't just storytelling anymore. It's about ensuring that what we say is externally and fully aligned with the real customer experience. At Saatva, that's where our retail footprint becomes, I think, even more important. When a customer walks into one of our viewing rooms, interacts with our teams, and experiences the product firsthand, that becomes the proof of the story we're telling. So PR, retail, and customer experience all have to work together to have that one consistent truth. And I do agree also that it's also a big shift in our industry. The brands that will win today are ones that can withstand scrutiny. It's not enough to just generate headlines. You have to ensure that the product, the delivery, and the in-store interaction all live together to support that narrative. And I think that where brands often break trust is with the disconnect between what they're saying and then the product quality or the customer service experience. At Saatva, and this was, of course, before I joined and made me even more confident in joining the team to become one of the chief storytelling officers, if I may borrow from you, Barney, for the brand, it was beautiful storytelling that was very intentional through our approach to beautiful, immersive retail, where the experience is really elevated. It's personalized, but it's also human. So it's a really interesting time for us in this industry and in the world we live in, where we're trying to really marry what we say and how we operate and how we act, and bring them together in a way that is authentic to each and every client we serve.
But when you talk about the influencers, like really kind of keying in on that, how many of them are they essentially being, I hate to use the word corrupted because it's not technically the right word to use. Are they being influenced by what's being generated? You talk about having a press room, you talk about having all of these established things, but are there challenges now with what AI is essentially seeing being exposed to or not being exposed to? And are the influencers out there who really are driving a lot of this sort of engagement? I mean, look at what happened down today with the Bachelorette, right? Basically, we're like, this was a very popular influencer. She had a lot of followers. She was on TV, and now things came out that probably should have been vetted out way earlier. But we'll leave that up for the booking company. But I guess the bigger question is: does the influencers, are they looking at this and saying, "Oh my gosh, is this real? Is the narrative real?" And how do you still control that narrative in the wake of where AI is pushing out information that I don't think it knows it's false. It just knows it's the information it has. Right? It's resistance.
I would say that I think influencers are even more important because they have to now own their narrative in the same way that brands do. And if the right and most authentic relationships are built and influencers are sourced to pair with the brand, I think that what it unlocks and the support and the unlock and the halo effect of that can be very powerful. So I would say that another reason that PR and crisis comms, which is kind of almost what you're leaning into and kind of touching upon here indirectly, is that brands and people themselves now, because these creators are themselves, they are an industry, they are their own company, and they have a reputation to maintain. They have to be very thoughtful and quick when things may be going off the rails, just because we see how if it's an informational source point, AI can take it and will not understand the biases that are, or the incorrect information that underlies that source of information. I think that influencers, they're just so incredible. I think that because they, in many cases, have such a strong and trusted relationship with their audiences and their communities, they can do a lot of the heavy lifting of getting to tell the stories that maybe an editor or a publication might not tell, or that maybe I can say in a press release, but it doesn't really resonate until you see a person who cares about the same things that you care about, lives a lifestyle that you identify with, or has a certain set of beliefs and morals and point of view that is really, again, aligns with that consumer. So I think that they're extremely important. But again, it's all about being able to understand, control the information, and do our best to react to and to set the narrative straight. But I think they're an incredible tool, and they really do bridge, again, so much of that storytelling. They can show the delivery of a product. They can show what it really looks like, through unboxing. They can be present at one of our store opening events and give people like the first sneak peek of a brand while I'm still getting my photographs back from the photographer. So there's so much that they can do, that a speed with which they can move, that I think is very powerful. So I'm so lucky that here at Saatva, we've actually just hired a new director of influencer strategy, and Paige now sits alongside Kristen, our head of social. And what we're going to unlock for now through one of my favorite sponsorships to talk about, LA28, is going to be really, really awesome.
Nice.
That's great. Yeah, no, that's really forward thinking to have that person in place to really leverage that. And it's a very interesting point that you make about influencers and being to sort of control or prevent the cognitive dissonance, or use them on their level of intimacy and understanding and connection to their audience, which others can't. And I think what you're saying about like the Olympic and the Paralympic Winter Games, Milano Cortina 2026, that there are things with those groups of individuals too, in those communities, which is another influencer connection, which is really, well, it's global.
Exactly. And that's what we did. Saatva is an American brand. And so our decision to sponsor Team USA and some of the athletes and teams that participated in Milano Cortina 2026 was a no-brainer for us. Mm-hmm. So whether it was sponsoring Jessie Diggins, who's one of I think the most decorated U.S. cross-country skier of all time, to Ryan Cochran-Siegel, to Brenna Huckabee, Noah Elliott, it was a way to align our approach to wellness and peak performance. Completely. And unlocking your superpower through sleep. That was just an incredible moment that we could latch onto. So as the American public got to root for Team USA, what's lovely about sports is that it really brings all of us together. And we got to see that through the lens of how they performed. We also sponsored USA Hockey as well as US Figure Skating. Both teams won gold, as we all know, which is very exciting.
ROI on that.
Best ROI. And being able, and also as a company, to unify all of our efforts from social, positioning the athletes as ambassadors and influencers through the events for stores. For example, when we opened in Edina, which is 30 minutes from Jessie Diggins, that cross-country skier's hometown of Afton, what a great alignment to celebrate our announcement of her as an ambassador in her hometown. You can't write that better. The same thing with Noah Elliott. He's a now two-time U.S. Paralympic gold medal champion who now lives in the Colorado Springs area near the training facilities for Team USA. He came down to open our Denver store and spoke with Great Day Colorado about, getting ready for the Paralympic Games, which are just ending now in Italy. And the alignments that we were able to unlock and celebrate from a retail perspective, from a storytelling perspective, from a marketing perspective, as we leverage some of these athletes in our advertising, it all was 360, and it was an incredible experience.
As a topic, sleep, subject matter that's so universal and that is evergreen in storytelling in every small to large niche is just really.
Sleep is life. Sleep is everything. I'm curious. Marketing often gets a little bit more of a runway to create campaigns, to connect, to write their story, to react to things that happen. But with PR, you really are almost working in real time, especially in an environment like the LA 2028 Olympics, Paralympics. And you're really only getting one shot. You're having to create your strategy, drop it into a global event that is going to happen in real time. You don't really know what's going to happen, who's going to win. And there are all kinds of things that could go right, that could go wrong, that you can't really plan for. How are you going to control risk, create storytelling in an environment where you really don't, you have no chance for a do-over. You're going to have to align the story with real-time experience. How do you align this, really?
As we think ahead to LA 28, me and the PR and the larger marketing team, we're already thinking about it. So there are kind of three moments, especially when it comes to getting ready to support the top most elite athletes on the world's biggest stage. And it's often, it also very much mirrors even how the athletes themselves kind of have their proudest moments or biggest learning opportunities, which is that we have that very small window during the games themselves, but there's the preparation and things that go on in the years ahead of that allow them to be at their best when the time comes. And we approach PR from that same lens. So as we start to unpack and think about who we are as a brand and how we choose the athletes or choose the partnerships with athletes, those that have really interesting sleep stories to tell, and all of them did, which was so amazing to really explore with the media and through their own storytelling of their journey to the games. We think about the stories we want to tell, the headlines we want to achieve, and we just have to make sure that we have given the media enough information to be able to tell that story. And that's why, for me, that press room is so powerful. For example, there were two incredibly amazing published stories on Ilya Malinin, who was one of our most recent ambassador sign-ons, very close to the games. They were written by Forbes Spain and El País Ovación. I don't speak Spanish, a word of it, at all.
And you did well, though. I would have,
never would have noticed. But we created this content that was available to the writers 8 hours in advance. They knew that we had a partnership established with him, and they were able to take it from there as he was performing on the ice in Milan.
So it sounds like Milan was a pretty big foray for Saatva. Like, it sounds like it was like, hey, we've got to get our presence out there. We had a conversation a couple of weeks back about the Olympics and its effect on advertising and things along those lines. The big question, you look at the conversation about the Super Bowl, and then obviously all those, huge ads that people spend tons of money just recording. And then obviously, I know it's hard to value it, but the reality was this good for Saatva? Is this good for what you were thinking, in terms of impact? Obviously, it puts you out on the front and center of the global stage, but it did have the impact that you're hoping for?
It certainly did. It did from a storytelling perspective and a brand perspective. It really brought Saatva to the forefront of the conversation on performance and wellness. When we could show our athletes or connect with our athletes and celebrate our athletes doing the thing that they have loved from when they were small in front of millions of people and get to share that and be part of that journey with them. That is a huge moment and win for us. We saw that translate into people seeing our content and our advertising and being very curious about what those products are and seeing it on a retail level for sure. One of my favorite stories that has come out of our participation in Milano Cortina 2026 was both Adweek and the State of Streaming rated our Ryan Cochran-Siegel ads, which ran during the first week of the opening of the Olympic Games in February. They talked about how powerful those ads were. And I can share that from our, the side of our creative team. Ryan was one of the athletes we actually had the least time with, but the content was rated so highly by two publications that, we are greatly respected in the streaming and the advertising community and marketing community. It was just really beautiful to see that, like Dunkin' Donuts, we had very little time with him, as he was preparing and training. But when you have that right story and, it makes sense, people will understand it, they'll get it, and you'll see the fruits of your labor in that way.
You were talking about this with us a little bit before we started recording, and it was so fascinating. Saatva itself is a brand that was kind of built on PR. Essentially, it's a mattress brand in a very crowded sea of mattress brands. It's one of the hardest things to do in retail is to build a brand that feels iconic in a crowded market. And I would love for you to, if you wouldn't mind, is tell us a little bit about how Saatva became a leader in sleep, just through health and wellness, really being built up through PR. And how did you approach when you came into the company? How did you make Saatva a contender against brands like Sleep Number and Sealy, starting as a small direct-to-consumer online-only brand to growing it into what it is today?
Yes, I mean, to see Saatva's, when I joined Saatva, it was already 10 years old. So when I joined in 2020, there was 10 years of work that had been done. And I would say that actually Saatva was really born off of performance marketing. That is really where Saatva shined. It wasn't about telling its story quite yet. It was about, if you're in the market for a mattress, we will serve you content. We have an incredible blog, which was doing a lot of the storytelling lifting for me prior to my arrival to the company. And we have one of the most incredible performance marketing teams I've ever seen. So we were able to, when we understood that a client was in market based on the research they were searching, we really made our claim to fame by being a mattress option that it would be presented to you. Our name is Sanskrit for truth, purity, and wholeness, Saatva, and it guides the brand in everything that it does. And so when I joined as the PR manager at the time, now vice president of PR, I got to really unpack what that meant and what was our what we stood for, and telling the stories of our transparency, our trust, and the differentiation, which our performance marketing team had always made clear to the consumer, from our lifetime warranties to our 365 night trials to the types of materials that we use in our mattresses, that they were made to order in the US using globally sourced materials and delivered via white glove delivery. They really told the story of how you were going to get this really unique mattress. And I got to unpack that even further, of course, when I joined. I would say that just before I joined, the rise of the bed-in-a-box brands, that is some of which you've mentioned, and also, of course, the legacy brands, noticing the rise of some of those bed-in-a-box brands, there became, I would say within the 2017, 2016, 2018, between that time frame, about 200 mattress brands jumped into the space beyond the legacy ones, which you have referred to, as well as some of the bed-in-a-box and other direct-to-consumer contenders that also jumped into the space. And I think that what differentiated Saatva was what I was able to do with this incredible brand that had been built and was very quietly telling its story through, obviously, performance marketing, through over 1,000 articles on the blog on how to sleep better and what to do if you, in this case, or how to shop for a mattress if you have these certain conditions. We really thought about telling more and being more transparent about how we do things differently. And I think that is what has kept us and made us a leader in the space. There's a lot of things that we do that legacy brands can't do because they're heavily reliant on a different type of business model, that D2C brands can't do because they don't have, they're not vertically integrated in the same way that we are, and they don't have the distribution network that we do. So I think that I was at an advantage of, we had the quality and the mindset of legacy brands, but we had the demand generated, consumer focused brand and business model that made our brand also dynamic and modern. So I just had the luck of the draw to be able to tell that story. And one of my favorite quotes from our CEO, Ron Rudson, is he says that Saatva does things right even when no one is looking. And I think that, again, from the differentiations of our demand generated business model to the use of CertaPure US certified comfort foams, recycled steel inner springs, plant-based thistle, fiberglass for our flame retardant layers, to organic cotton in our mattress covers, our growth is really a story of disciplined storytelling paired with product integrity. We didn't try to outspend legacy players, we outpositioned them. We leaned into one of our taglines, smarter luxury sleep, which is about transparency, craftsmanship, wellness, and we consistently reinforce that message through earned media, partnerships, and now through retail. And our Team USA sponsorship is truly a perfect example of that. It allowed us to move from being a mattress company, one in a sea of many, to being part of the larger conversation about sleep and recovery as a competitive advantage.
What about the bedding side, the sort of complementary sides of this?
Yes.
Not necessarily, leave out the mattresses. Saatva is obviously a major player now. But what about everything else? Talk to us about that.
We are definitely seeing growth in our top of bed category, as well as our filler category. So think pillows, toppers, comforters. So the natural complements to any sort of mattress, we've certainly, the demand grew as our products gained notoriety. Well, I like eco-friendly things. I want organic options in terms of bedding or pillows. And you'll see that our collection is now our top of bed and complementary bedroom product collections reflect that. So we now have over 30 bed frames that are inspired by cities around the world. We have a down collection, down alternative collection, organic collection, ecotex, so chemical-free bedding collection. So we have something at every price point, or that really responds to any sort of interest that you may have, whether it's travel, whether it's now pet and kid. So we've expanded the collections so that you can sleep with Saatva throughout your entire journey, or your pets can. And we have a collection that responds to and can help you create a bedroom experience of your choice. Rugs, bedroom chairs, storage, now lighting and nightstands as well. So our collection is rapidly growing again, so that you can create your perfect sleep sanctuary with Saatva.
And you're able to show that in, what do you have now, 10 showrooms or viewing rooms, retail?
We have 30. We just
30, pardon me. Where did I get 10 from?
We open 10 a year. So you're not, we open about 10 a year since I've been here 2022 through now. So we just opened Atlanta earlier this month. And yes, I have 30 viewing rooms nationwide.
Check it out.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things I just wanted to touch back on was, is smarter sleep.
Smarter luxury.
Smarter luxury. And I think that that's really, the consumer wants that. They aspire to be smarter about their luxury. And it's not just that you are providing smarter luxury, it's that's really an aspirational choice, I think. And that's where so many of us are or want to be at this point. And I think that's brilliant. And you're dealing with such an intimate connection to the consumer because it is their bed. And so naturally, those other natural extensions, they trust you for the mattress, they should trust you for the other things. And I just wanted to mention, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but there was a period of time when a retailer, perhaps they were doing the mattress in a box as well. I don't know if it was Casper. And it just occurred to me, it was so on brand, off brand to do sleep gummies under their brand. Do you remember that?
I can't speak to that in particular, but I agree that the natural extension of people wanting to sleep better is, of course, the foundation is the mattress. You spend 8 hours of your life on, if you're lucky, if you're sleeping 6 to 8 hours, that's a third of your life that you're spending sleeping. So obviously the mattress, you've got to start with that layer. But then there's also other sleep concerns. I sleep hot, you sleep cold. Okay, the bedding now plays that layer because that's the actual thing that your body becomes in contact with. Then there's your neck to shoulder ratio, alignment and ratio, or if you're a stomach sleeper, side sleeper, back sleeper, you have sleep apnea, you have other conditions that might prevent you from sleeping comfortably. You need to add the pillow and other things, a comforter that is at a weight or fill that is appropriate for your climate, whether it's Atlanta versus New York versus Dallas versus Denver. So it kind of all makes sense that as brands grow and as consumers want to really expand the universe of comfort, contributes to a better night's sleep, you'll see brands, Saatva and others, that will expand the range of products that they offer to really help, again, create that perfect sleep sanctuary and environment for that specific person.
Yeah, which is why I thought it was odd when Casper introduced gummies, because then they were also telling the consumer that you also need this gummy in order to sleep successfully on my mattress.
I think they were trying to be hip and cool, and
of course they were, but
doing well because it was.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You were talking about your physical spaces, and you're continuing to expand on those. Did you have to shift your PR strategy at all to help customers understand your shift from purely online? Is there anything that you had to do differently from a PR perspective as you moved from online only to incorporating physical into your brand?
I would say that I think the physical helps the storytelling. we were a brand that was purely online. People didn't have a physical reference for the brand, for our products, before the product arrived in their home through our white glove delivery service. I think that from a media perspective, they embraced that. They embraced that Saatva, which was a brand that I would send them a sample or send them a tester for. They could really come into our own space and almost walk into our online experience, because we partner with Samsung, for example, in all of our retail locations. So you can touch one of their high definition tablets while laying on a mattress and learn what's inside. And it kind of functioned like an in-person online kind of collaboration and connection with our stores. So from a retail perspective and from a local DMA, so a digital marketing area perspective, having a store was really meaningful, because there was this other reference point that could really add credibility and become another differentiator for our brand, where you could really touch and feel the product and experience it on your own, whether you shop from one of the Samsung displays in our location or went back home and did it from your device of choice. The stores actually act as a billboard, because it reinforces that we are this brand, and you can see the products, you can touch the products, you can speak with a customer service representative, you can see the universe of mattresses that we make. That's another differentiator of Saatva, that we don't just make inner spring or a memory foam hybrid or latex or a mattress for bigger bodies like athletes and people of that nature, or adjustable precision air. We make them all. So you can test a memory foam and a precision air and an inner spring and a hybrid and a latex all in one place, and then figure out which mattress is best for you. So I think retail really helped with the storytelling. And I think that it wasn't too much of a shift for PR or for that storytelling. It actually just enhanced it. And it gave me now opportunities through our store openings to really tell those stories with the right audiences. So the editors I've never met, who now I've gotten to meet, and they've gotten to see our product all at once, to the influencers and tastemakers within the region who get to, again, sing the praises. So it's really just enhanced our storytelling.
Oh, nice. And then
you see that reflected in the numbers, actually, in the sales directly around the
I was just going to say, the penetration it gives you by that exposure locally is valuable.
Exactly.
Well, and speaking of exposure too, are you having to shift your strategy at all to appear in agentic searches now on the web, not just web searches? Is that something that's starting to appear on your radar?
Absolutely. We have an incredible SEO director that is really helping us to understand now how the instances of our blog content as well as our PR content are being served. We are now measuring both citations and mentions, citations, and actual clicks that generate in driving traffic. We're now thinking about aligning our content to be more contextually relevant, that speak more to the way that consumers might approach a question on an AI platform, on an LLM. Those searches tend to be more long tail. We are thinking about the formats of what we do. Is the schema and that markup correct, so that it is serving and intelligently mapping our content as it exists to the questions that are being asked? We're going to be experimenting with new formats that really get into and respond to the questions that we see popping up within not only our industry, but about our brand. So we're making sure that we have that content that will now respond to it, or will be served when someone is asking a question that's within the universe that we live, or the universe that Saatva occupies. So that is definitely changing that strategy. But we again, because right now so much is reliant on earned media, we already are in a great place, and of course our existing blog content.
Yeah, some good stuff to work with that you had the opportunity to come in and really tune and twist and expand out in a great way. Bigger
question. Right? You've been in PR, you've been at Saatva, you've been in other places too. We've had a couple of conversations of what's making us excited to wake up at 2:00 in the morning and focus on this. What are you getting excited about? Like, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. What do you you've obviously evolved in your career. What are you getting excited about, you personally versus you as the PR representative for Saatva?
I would say that, again, when I started back in 2006, fresh out of Tufts, when I started, it was all about magazines. That was the medium through which you communicated, at least from a PR and advertising perspective. We hadn't even had the rise of online, selling things online. What's that? And I remember my first covers, magazine covers that I achieved, and I still have them, of course, 20 years later, but those brought me so much joy and still do. And of course, our pedigrees of my career. But things that get me excited now is that I've never traditionally had the opportunity to speak directly to consumers. I've always worked with the media who speak on my behalf. And what's exciting now in this age of AI and the modernization of the touch points of brands and consumers is that my content is now also a positive bridge. So it's really exciting to get closer to the consumer. Again, I'm just a marketer by nature, and I know this was less of a job question, more of just what gets me excited, but it's just the idea that I have now the opportunity to touch more people and on behalf of a brand that I truly admire, and I feel so fortunate to be able to tell the story of. I'm excited about really how brands will figure out the best ways to be that touch point across just a diffuse environment of where people get their information from. I just think that there's so much opportunity, and I'm excited about that and getting to tell stories in ways I hadn't imagined. And I'm really just fortunate to be with Saatva that now allows me to do it through the media, through retail openings. I get to do it in many different ways. And of course, our sponsorship of Team USA and the LA 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. I mean, that is such an honor to be part of and to help craft some small part of that storytelling.
Will you be going to the LA 28 games?
I hope so.
Right.
I'd like to believe I'll be on the ground cheering on not only our Team USA athletes as a whole, our ambassadors, of course, but also sharing more information about the mattress that we will design to outfit Olympic Village.
That's incredible.
Well, we will be watching for Saatva ads for sure. What beverage will you be diving into this evening?
So I am a rum girly. I should have been born in, I guess, some sort of island, but I love a mojito.
Love me some rum.
That is the key. I mean, maybe I was a pirate like Jack Sparrow. Who knows? I don't know. But I do love rum, and I love a good mojito. Anything that's refreshing and bright, but also, yep.
I think I will join you with one of those this evening from wherever you are. I'm in New York.
Josh, what about you?
I'm getting ready for shop talk. Normally, my partner in crime is Shari, and she's not attending this year. So I'm thinking of going dry for tonight because be destroyed starting. I'm on a 9:40 p.m. flight out on Sunday night. I get there at like 12:15 in the morning, and then it's just go all the way. And it's hot. Like it's 96 degrees there. Golf.
Break out the Bermuda shorts.
Yep.
I've learned as I've gotten older, you need to sleep. You need to be able to rest your voice. You need to be able to engage with people. You can't walk in basically in sunglasses and a baseball cap trying to hide yourself in the corner. So, the reality is tonight, I think I'm going to go easy. If my wife, we open a bottle of wine, it'll be one that we take a glass or two and I'll be like, okay. But part of it is I've got to prepare myself for what's going to happen. A person who we've been having chats with, who's going to join us on a future podcast, he asked me, he's like, what's your advice my first year going? And my response is take your time, pace yourself. It is just so much going on.
Yes.
It's so intense that, sometimes you just want to go back and take a nap. Like it's just, I actually feel my age a lot more. I haven't hit 50 yet, but I'm basically like, you know what? And I'm extremely disappointed that partner in crime, Shari is by far the only person I've ever met who can come out of it with a full wardrobe. No joke. Like, I get this. I'm like, how in the world did you get this?
Shari, you and I next year, we're going to go.
Absolutely.
I don't understand how it's possible. Like, I just don't get it. Like, even her mom came out with better swag than I did.
There's an art and science to it, but of course, I agree with your foundation. Sleep, rest, pace, hydration. All of those things will be key, especially with the heat being what it was. In fact, I was in Las Vegas opening our 29th store, or celebrating the opening of our 29th store earlier at the beginning of this month, and it was already in the 80s. So I can only imagine what it's like right now.
Shari, thank you so much. This has been so much fun, and I think this has been wonderful.
Thank you so much. Anytime Josh asks me to talk about what I do, I really tend to try to put the executives and the incredible colleagues with whom I work forward, because that's my job. And, I take so much pride in seeing them share their incredible stories. But this has been incredible. Deanne, Barney, you've made me so comfortable. Josh, my heart, thank you so much for including me in this conversation and allowing me to share a little bit more about what I do and really how it kind of ladders up into marketing in a different way, especially in the age that we live in, where it's definitely becoming, an important factor for and piece of storytelling.
Thank you again, Shari, for most appreciated.